Welcome, everyone. Today, we're unpacking the life of a historical figure who literally changed the map of the world, yet somehow remains one of the most enigmatic leaders of the 20th century, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Now, we aren't just going to sit here and recite dry dates and facts at you. Instead, we're exploring a story full of really fascinating paradoxes. We'll see how a man of immense, almost unbelievable contradictions wove his own personal life into the creation of an entirely new nation. And as you'll see, understanding his paradoxical nature is absolutely crucial to understanding modern geopolitics and leadership today.
And the timing for this explainer? It honestly couldn't be better. 2026 officially marks the 150th birth anniversary of the Quaid-e-Azam, which translates to Great Leader. Because of this massive milestone, it is the perfect time for us to take a step back and really examine his highly complex legacy. It's our chance to look past the towering monuments and those stiff official portraits and try to understand the actual man.
Okay, let's dive into this with a boyhood quote that completely shatters the stern, rigid image we usually associate with him. Even as a young kid in Karachi, he was out there telling his friends to stop playing marbles in the dirt and play cricket instead. It shows this incredibly early obsession with propriety, cleanliness, and frankly, a preference for a very British gentleman's game. It's just a small window into a personality that, right from the start, was already incredibly distinct.
Section 1. The man behind the myths. So, to truly grasp his political evolution, we first have to look at his personal quirks. When Jinnah went to London as a young man, he didn't initially plan on changing the world. Believe it or not, he seriously considered becoming an actor. He actually wanted to play Romeo at London's famous Old Vic Theatre, a dream he only abandoned after getting a pretty stern letter from his father. And his sense of style? Impeccable Western fashion. He was famous for wearing bespoke Savile Row suits, sporting a monocle, and taking immense pride in never wearing the same silk tie twice. He reportedly owned over 200 suits. I mean, it's a stunning contrast to the traditional local garb worn by other leaders of his time.
Section 2. The brilliant Bombay barrister. While that dramatic flair didn't go to waste, he just channeled it right into the courtroom. After shifting gears from acting to law, he became the youngest British Indian to be called to the bar in England at just 19 years old. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the story behind that 1500 figure. Early in his career back in Bombay, Jinnah was offered this highly coveted, permanent position as a magistrate with a salary of 1,500 rupees per month. He politely turned it down. Why? Because he boldly stated that he planned to earn 1,500 rupees in a single day, which was a staggering sum back then. And through sheer brilliance as a pleader, he eventually did exactly that. His legal brilliance quickly bled over into politics, where he achieved some incredible early triumphs. He joined the Indian National Congress in 1906 as a moderate. By 1908, he gained massive fame for his legal logic in the caucus case, successfully defending the rights of Indian politicians against rigged elections. But he wasn't just representing the elite either. In 1925, he champions the working class, leading a massive all-India postal staff union. We're talking 70,000 members here, fighting for their living wages.
Section 3. A shift in vision. The Jinnah of the early 1900s is definitely not the Jinnah of the 1940s. A profound mid-career disillusionment would completely pivot his ideological path, and this brilliantly illustrates that pivot. Early on, leaders like Sarojini Naidu literally dubbed him the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity. He believed deeply at that time that self-government could be achieved together. Yet he ultimately became the driving force behind the two-nation theory, asserting that Hindus and Muslims were two completely distinct nations, requiring separate sovereign states. So you have to ask, what caused this massive shift? Well, the real fracture began in 1920. Jinnah fundamentally clashed with Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was mobilizing the masses through satyagraha, which is nonviolent non-cooperation. Jinnah, on the other hand, was a strict constitutionalist who believed deeply in the rule of law. He viewed this mass civil disobedience as dangerous political anarchy. So when the Congress fully endorsed Gandhi's methods, Jinnah impartially stood his ground, resigned from the Congress, and began to chart an entirely different course. That new course was heavily shaped by a couple of key factors. First, the trauma of the 1937 elections, where Muslims found themselves politically sidelined, and second, the influence of Sir Muhammad Iqbal. Iqbal was a visionary poet and philosopher who became a true mentor to Jinnah. He convinced him that Indian Muslims needed a separate homeland just to protect their identity and rights.
Under Iqbal's guidance, Jinnah began to adopt Islamic symbolism and started speaking directly to the underprivileged. He essentially transformed from a secular elite lawyer into a mass political leader.
Section 4. The Struggle for Pakistan.
At this point, the political theory of a separate homeland was about to become a high-stakes struggle for sovereignty. Let's move to and see how this builds chronologically. In March 1940, the Muslim League passes the Lahore Resolution, formally demanding autonomous Muslim-majority states. Fast forward to 1942, Jinnah rejects the British Cripps mission because it didn't sufficiently recognize Pakistan's right to exist. Then comes a pivotal electoral moment. In 1946, his party sweeps the Muslim electoral seats. And finally, all of this culminates in August 1947 with the official independence of Pakistan. It was a rapid, intense, and frankly historically unprecedented sequence of events.
And hey, remember that 1,500 rupee job he turned down as a young man? When Jinnah achieved his ultimate goal and became Pakistan's very first governor-general, he fixed his own salary at exactly 1 rupee per month. Just one. It's a profound statement of his principled leadership. He had absolute dedication to the new nation, putting state building entirely above his own personal wealth. Section 5. A divided family legacy. But, as we know, creating a new nation came with a deeply poignant personal cost. The geographic split of the subcontinent actually mirrored the split in his very own family. His beloved sister, Fatima Jinnah, who was his constant companion, moved with him to Karachi and became the Madre Milad, or Mother of the Nation. However, his only child, his daughter Dina, who had married a Parsi against his wishes, chose to remain in Bombay, India. The father of the new nation literally had to leave his only daughter behind across a new, deeply contested border.
Section 6. The Final Days.
This heavy personal burden brings us to the tragic and closely guarded final chapter of his life in 1948. Even as he worked furiously to build Pakistan, Jinnah was dying. He kept his secret battle with advanced tuberculosis completely hidden from the public. He feared it would show weakness and derail the nation's fragile beginnings. Despite this severe illness, he continued his lifelong habit of smoking 50 Craven A cigarettes every single day. Toward the end, he retreated to the cool mountain air of Ziyarat, his weight having plummeted to a frail 79 pounds. He was essentially willing himself to live long enough to see his nation secure.
The details of his final day are frankly just heartbreaking. On September 11th, 1948, just 13 months after creating Pakistan, he was flown back to Karachi in a desperately frail state. On the way into the city, his ambulance broke down. The dying founder of the nation was forced to wait by the roadside in the oppressive, sweltering heat for an hour. Trucks and buses passed by, and the occupants were entirely unaware that their Quaid-e-Azam lay inside. He passed away later that night.
So the crucial point is this: Muhammad Ali Jinnah achieved what many thought was completely impossible. He carved a new sovereign nation onto the map of the world through sheer willpower and legal brilliance. But did the geographic division of his own family ultimately mirror the very partition he fought so hard to create? It's an incredibly powerful paradox to leave you with. A man of pristine suits and unyielding logic whose greatest political victory required immense, heartbreaking, personal sacrifice. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive leaves you eager to learn more about the truly fascinating complexities of history.